Jab defense, it's what it sounds like. It's when the person is just using this straight punch with the front arm, okay? Technically, you can do this move anytime they use a straight punch, any type of straight punch, whether it be a jab or the back arm, but it's a lot easier and more effective as a jab defense. So even though in self-defense most people probably aren't going to jab, it's still nice to use, but just keep in mind it does work both ways. So whichever arm the person's jabbing with, I'm going to move that direction. So the indicator that someone's going to jab is usually this elbow comes up like this, or they've already jabbed. If they're jabbing at you, then we know they're probably going to continue to jab. So I'll show the move, we'll go through it. He's kind of jabbing at me. I'm closing the gap, blocking that arm, and just shooting through. Okay. Very simple move, all about timing really. It doesn't necessarily have to be fast, but the timing has to be correct. So he's jabbing at me, he's giving me this indicator here, okay? I want to close the gap, but one of the most common mistakes is when people close the gap, they step too deep. And so from this angle, so you can see what I mean, he's jabbing and they step super deep right here, okay? And now there's a lot of space to have to close. So if I step too wide, he has an opportunity to turn, okay? And we don't want that. So when I close this gap, it's more the movement of my head and less the movement of my body. And so what I mean by that is when I step in to close the gap, I'm really moving my head out. You see how much that's in my head and not so much stepping super wide here. So we really want to get as close to him as possible without getting punched. Sounds really easy, right? So as he jabs, right, he's aiming right towards my face. So I want my head to go wide and my body to go deep, okay? And ideally I end up with my shoulder right here to where I can clinch, and by keeping my head tight here, he can't turn back into me. So I've really got his back. I can circle all the way to the back, or I kind of like just this position here for trip takedowns and that kind of thing. So as far as the hands are concerned, the hands are the assist, okay? A lot of people try and make the hands the move. And what I mean by that is we get into this thing where he jabs and I try and block the arm like that. And I forget to move my head, I forget to step deep. And so the hands assist, we can go here. So if he's jabbing, I can go here, I can go here, or I can use both. Okay. I prefer to use just this because it leaves this one free to underhook and clinch. And so what that looks like, he's jabbing, jabbing, jabbing. This arm's already deep through that clinch. So that's just the way I prefer it. And like I said, you can technically do this if he does a straight punch with that arm. It's just a little harder, but nothing's gonna really change. It's just, there's just a lot more power in that punch, that straight punch. It's a very quick, powerful punch. And so by closing the gap on this, if you don't do this really well, like Josh is being really nice here, and this is another issue when we practice this, he's not really aiming for my head. Okay, he's kind of aiming off here, which is very polite of him, but it teaches us bad habits, because if he doesn't aim right at my head, I have no incentive to move him, okay? And so really like practicing these with just some MMA gloves and going slow is probably the best way to do it, because then my partner can punch me, or he can just try and tap me forward. The only issue I don't like with this is fingers to the eye, so that's why I kind of prefer the MMA gloves. We can just, open fist, kind of just slowly jab at each other. But then he can actually aim at my face, and I have an incentive to actually move it. So I feel like that teaches us to really move the head properly. And like I said, it's all the head movement on this. Whether it's the jab here, I'm going to have the leg forward of whichever one he's punching with. If I want to take the jab side, that leg's forward. He's jabbing, jabbing, jabbing. Boom, right there. Clinch. If he's maybe throwing a couple of those strong straights, I'm going to switch. Okay? Boom. But nothing's going to change. If it's the strong arm, I'm still stepping deep, moving the head, shoulder comes in, hand goes through the clinch. I'm grabbing the arm that shot through here, pulling his hips in. Okay? So, just a couple more angles here. Jab side. He's jabbing, jabbing. Boom. Okay. Strong side. He's throwing a couple of those. Boom. Okay. Again, it's all about closing the gap with the head. So get that head in. If I have a poor close the gap and I stay outside of that elbow when I do this, one, when I push past the elbow, he doesn't move. And he can just, a lot of times, he'll just counter with that one. And that's nasty. So I need to get deep enough that I'm pressing on the tricep. And you can see how effectively that turns in. So a weak close the gap with the head is what's really going to kill this movement. And weak movement of the head. So just one more time here. I'm getting past the tricep here. My head should be right there. Arm shoots through, clinch.